Time in a while. New York Pro was a few days ago, so we'll start with that and we veer off into other topics. That's what we're here for. That's where we get the live chat going. This is why we do Ask Ron. Anything you want to ask, I'll answer just about anything. But we'll start with the New York Pro. Great show, I thought, overall. Didn't have a ton of big names in it, but the quality was outstanding. You know, like I've said to a few people, Jose and Giles, the fact that there weren't a lot of big names gave us a chance to really see and appreciate some of the newer talent that's out there that maybe wouldn't have gotten a really good look, good call outs, had there been, a few Olympia guys, Arnold Classic guys in the lineup, girls, that level. With that being said, we did have some of those in the show, but congratulations to Tony Burton. Very, very well-deserved victory. Congratulations also to Stuart Sutherland, Beef Stew. It's not the first time I've seen him, but I barely remembered him from Tampa last year. Last year in Tampa, he jumped in a week after the USA. Hadn't planned on competing. He had just won the overall, super heavyweight and overall at the USA. A week later, jumps into the Tampa Pro with COVID. Screwed up his sodium loading, whatever, something with his sodium. Didn't look his best. He still managed to place seventh out of, I think it was about 20 guys in the open. So props to him. Had Tony Burton not been in the show, Stu Sutherland would be our New York Pro champion right now. But I think they're all going to see each other again. I believe the list is out. I haven't even checked the list for Cali Pro. I should probably check that while we're here, huh? Let's see. Let's do that live, guys. I'm going to open up another tab because I'm curious who's in Cali. So I'm going to go to ifpbpro.com. Yeah, if you guys ever want to see lineups for shows, they usually come out IFBB Pro. They usually come out Monday, Tuesday at the latest before a show, the list of competitors. And then usually by Monday at the latest, the score sheets for the previous weekend's contests are all up on that. So let's go to Palmetto Pro. No. So this will be the first, it's like a reaction video. This will be the first time. Toronto. Yeah, Toronto, I heard Hassan Mustafa's doing that. I heard Ian Valier's doing that. That should be a good show. Where is this? Oh, there we go. Okay, so the official list is out for Cali Pro. This will be the very first time I'm looking at it. Oh, son of a bitch. I got to go back again. I thought I clicked on it. Hang on, guys. Bear with me. So, again, ifbbpro.com. Great website. It gives you the lists for the athletes, for the contests, for the coming weekend. Usually it's up by Monday afternoon before that. And then the results are always up. Okay, so competitor list. I'm clicking on that. If this isn't working, this tells you their website's not that user-friendly. Okay, here we go. So men's open, we got Slavoj Bednar going into that, Wesley Boxey, Tony Burton again, Nathan Dandridge, not sure who, Rafael Del Real, Ross Flanagan, I know Ross Flanagan, Song Chol Lee from Korea. Oh, wow. Josue Placentia, Stu Sutherland, Beef Stew, Marius Tomczyk. So it looks like it's going to be a rematch between Tonio and Beef Stew again. Oh, wow, they just have men's open bodybuilding? That's the only pro division they have, I guess? Wow, did not realize that. Huh. Anyway, yeah, so that is the Cali Pro. It's just one division, men's open. So I'm going to go to the phones here, go to live chat, see if you guys have anything interesting to say. I don't want to see these ads. Top chat. Thoughts on Rexo Stallone and his chances of winning at this upcoming Cali Pro? Who's Rexo Stallone? Do you think a tighter Stu can beat Tonio? No, and the only reason I say that is because Stu was in better condition than Tonio at the New York Pro. If I was going to give it a percentage, I'd say he was a good 10, 15% harder, leaner, tighter, however you want to phrase it. He was definitely in better condition, and he has a hell of a physique. It's just Tonio has this God-given shape and structure. It's just beautiful. It reminds me a lot of Dexter Jackson, guys like Sean Roden. Just a really pretty physique. Very round, full muscles, small joints, tiny waist. His back just comes out like a cobra with these monstrous traps, delts. I mean, it's a hell of a physique. And I think once he puts on just a little bit more size, a little bit more, maybe like 5, 6, 7 pounds, I think that's all he needs to be really competitive at the Olympia, the Arnold Classic. I don't think he's quite there yet. as far as hanging with the really big guys, because once you get up to the Olympia and the Arnold, now you're talking about Hadi, Derek, Rami. Geez, who else is in there, guys? Help me out. Nick Walker. I mean, it's a hell of a group fighting for the Olympia titles. So yeah, I want to give him a lot of credit. Stu looked amazing. I thought he could have been couldn't have been much tighter. He was pretty damn good condition. He was full, posed well, and that hair. At first, I thought that hair was a bit ridiculous, and people saying it looks like a wig. But you know what? In a sport where so many people are losing their hair or have lost their hair, a lot of guys in their late 20s, early 30s, even you see them with the bald heads because they've already started losing it. I'm 53, so obviously it's not unusual that I'm losing my hair. But to see somebody with that much hair, a nice full bushy woolly head of hair, it's kind of refreshing. It does look. It's a different look for sure. I mean, you could say it looks silly or it looks cool. It's however, whatever your individual thoughts are. Jimmy L, a little off topic, but how do you think Tony would match up with Bonac? I think Bonac would beat him right now because Bonac is a lot thicker, has a lot more muscle maturity. But I think once Tonio puts on just a little bit more size, remember, Bonac was a 212 and he ended up putting on about 20 pounds after that, ultimately. And I think Tony will too. Tony was a 212. I think he didn't even know his weight when I asked him. He had no idea what he weighed, but my best guess is he's about 225 on stage. So, right, the latest version of Bonac would probably beat him, but I think eventually he does have a better structure. Bonac's, the only big critique I have on Bonac's physique is the structure. His torso is kind of short, makes his hips look a little wider. He doesn't have that really crazy V taper that he would have if he had a longer torso. His lats are nice and full and they come down, but with a longer torso, you get more of that illusion of a really crazy V taper. Alon Powers, who's covering it for RX. What's up, Alon? Alon, what are you on Instagram so people can follow you? Coach Powers, right? Is it Coach Powers? I can't look it up because I'm using my phone for this. Great seeing you, Ron. You look sharp in your tailor-made suit. Thank you, Alon. Yeah, I resisted wearing suits for years and years and years. Two reasons: sheer laziness. I didn't want to have to bring a suit, and the suit that I had, I bought for my sister's funeral back in 2006. That's the last time I bought a suit. Doesn't look great. It's not fitted that well. It wasn't tailored for me. It was off the rack and just had it, had the legs shortened and a couple of little modifications, but it wasn't tailored to my particular body. This was made by the guy that makes Jose Raymond suits, a guy named Chris Quazo, who has an office right there in the Seaport District in Boston, very, very high rent area. It was the most money I've ever spent on a suit. It was, was it $2,500 altogether with the shirt and tie. He threw in the shirt and tie, but it's stretchy, it's comfortable. You could train in it. You could squat in it. It's like a stretchy material. So now I'll keep wearing suits. Truth one, Rafael Del Real is doing the Cali. He goes by Rexo Stallone. Oh, I mean, how would I have known that? On the ground, was wondering your thoughts on his chance this weekend. I'll have to look him up. Truth one, I have no idea what he looks like. Once I take a look at him, I'll let you know what I think, but I have no idea who that is. But you know what? That's the beauty of the sport, is there would be somebody like that who's a complete unknown, but then they get a chance to really shine at a show like this. It doesn't have a mega star lineup. And, a week from now, we could be talking about how great this Rafael Del Real, Rexo Stallone is, because maybe he's really good. I have no idea. I'm sure he's really good. Jimmy L, would love to see Tonio jump into Toronto against Ian. I mean, he might, assuming he wins Cali, which is, he's the odds-on favorite to win that. I thought maybe some other names would jump in. And so far, there's still time. The list could change. It does happen. It's Tuesday. The list could change between now and Saturday. Some other guys could decide, I'm going to jump in. I mean, Ian could jump in, really, realistically. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he could beat Ian, only because Ian's just so big. He gets into such great condition. Doesn't have the prettiest shape, but it's kind of like a Dorian. It's just a brutal assault. He has a pretty good structure. Doesn't have a big gut or anything, but he's got just gobs, thick, dense, mature muscle, Ian. So I don't know. I don't know what would happen with those two. It'd be interesting. Alon Powers is at The Real Coach Powers. Thanks for the shout out. Check him out. At The Real Coach Powers. Who's judging Cali? I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, well, it doesn't matter who's judging, man. I mean, there's only a few head. I assume you mean the head judge. There's only a handful of people that I ever see head judge. Steve Weinberger is obviously the biggest name. He judges head judge at the Olympia, usually head judge at the Arnold. Tyler Mannion was head judge at New York Pro. He's Jim Mannion's grandson, JM's son. He head judges a lot. A guy named Bill Sabilla. I've seen him head judge a few times. There's not that many different guys because it's a pretty prestigious position. You know, you're basically controlling the flow of the show by who you call out. Sandy Williamson. Oh, well, Stepan Artuni. Sandy Williamson usually head judges the women's divisions. A lot of times they'll switch head judges for the men's divisions. You know, they'll have like maybe Tyler or Steve, whatever, and then when the women's divisions come out, sometimes you'll see Sandy Williamson will step in and do that because she is by far the best judge of the women's divisions. You know, I remember her judging like over 30 years ago when I first started going to contests. She's been doing this a very long time. Dane Mannion judge New York Pro. Tyler, yeah, wondering if Sandy or Steve would favor Stu. Well, the head judge doesn't have a vote. You know that, right? I mean, they don't have a score. It's the head judge has no input on the actual score sheet. It's the other judges to the left and the right of them. They do control the callouts, but they usually will ask the other judges who they want to see. They control the callouts, but that doesn't have an impact on the score. So yeah, I hope that clears that up. The head judge does not actually score the contest. They basically manage the judges and the callouts. That's what a head judge does. Jimmy L, do you think Brett should have gotten a better look just given the amount of muscular area condition? Or was he rightly placed given his structure? Brett. Who's Brett? Oh, you mean Brent? You guys got to spell things right because otherwise I'm like, who's Brett? Brent Swanson. I love Brett. Brent, cool guy, school teacher. I competed against him 12 years ago when he was just a pup. Great guy. Does not have the prettiest shape and structure. A lot of muscle, and he gets into probably the best shape, best condition at that show. If you know, I don't know. There was a couple women in the show that had crazy condition too, but Brent Swanson definitely stood out. I think they placed him where he deserved to place. You know, just because you're looking at a total package, you're looking at shape, structure, and those do factor in quite a bit. I mean, Tonio is doing very well. He has a lot of muscle. He gets in a good condition, but it's his shape and his structure that really put him over the edge against the other guys. So he has all that. It's a total package they're looking for. Oh, you fixed it, Brent. Yeah. Um, yeah, I thought Brent got a good look. I mean, he was in second call out. Stepan Artuni, she did it last year. She's doing a seminar the day before as well. Also, maybe she is head judging the whole show. Maybe I'm being gender biased when I didn't think she was judging the whole show, only the women's divisions. Shame on me. I mess up all the time, guys. You know that. Raymond Jones, has the quality of the New York Open lineup dipped since Nick Walker won? Um, the lineup wasn't as great last year as it was the year before, and this year, I mean, it wasn't the best in terms of big names. I thought it was still a quality lineup, but yeah, we're not getting a lot of big names. A lot of the Olympia, the problem is the Olympia was in December. A bunch of them held on to their diets and did the Arnold in March, which was 3 weeks, it was like 12 weeks later. And then, they're done. They didn't need a big break after that because they were already on prep 16 weeks for the Olympia, another 12 weeks. So, I mean, they were on prep for 6 months. The people that did both the recent Arnold Classic and the Olympia, they can't jump into any shows in like May or June. It's way too soon. Their body needs to like reset. They usually need like a little bit of an off season before they even think about prepping again. So it's a timing thing, man. I mean, these guys can't compete all year long. They need break. Their bodies need breaks. Did the Cali Pro list come out? Stepan, yeah, I actually went over it in the beginning of this. And it looks like it's only men's open bodybuilding. So whenever you want to see the list, you go to ifbbpro.com. And usually by Monday afternoon before a show, Tuesday morning at the latest, you'll see the list posted for all the pro shows that are coming up that weekend coming up. And you'll also see the score sheets and another tab for all the shows that just happened. And you can go back and look at previous score sheets too from other shows. Let's see, the Cali Pro. Truth One, what was Tonio's weight at the New York Pro? He didn't know. I interviewed him on this channel. It's the interviews there. He had no idea. He doesn't look very heavy. I think he's about 225. However, his round muscle bellies make him look much bigger than what he really is. Yeah, I mean, Dexter Jackson was about 5'6". He said he was like 235. I don't know if he was ever that heavy on stage. Maybe he was. But he was 5'6". Let's give him 230. He was beating, he was Mr. Olympia. He won the Olympia. He was beating plenty of guys who outweighed him by 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 pounds. Happened many, many times. It's not about size and weight. If it was just about the biggest, heaviest guy and shape and all that didn't matter, the late Greg Kovacs would have been Mr. Olympia for years and years. Horrible shape and structure, but Jesus, was he big. Big dude. Stepan again. Antonio about to make 20K doing these 2 shows and making a big name for sponsors. Yeah, right now he has no supplement sponsor. A couple of companies are interested, but isn't that crazy? He does not have a supplement sponsor right now. That's going to change. Somebody's going to snap him up. Dane says, I feel like Texas Pro is becoming the number 3 show. Texas Pro, I'm trying to think of the promoters' names. I can picture them in my head. It's Sheila and what's his name? Somebody help me out. Texas. I know his name. It's just not popping in my head. He's a men's physique pro. He's a great DJ. Freddie. Yeah, Freddie, the promoter, and Sheila, I think her name. They do an amazing job. They have a little bit of an advantage because their show is later in the season. It's August, just like Tampa. Like I said, a lot of these guys that did the Arnold Olympia, they needed a break. And now that you need to win a show to qualify for the Olympia, you can't get in on points anymore. They changed that. I don't know if you guys all realize that. Yeah, you're going to see most of the guys, they don't want to prep twice. They'd like to do something later in the season, so it's really just like a prep for that. Hopefully win that, get their qualification, rest a little bit, and then get right back on prep for the Olympia. Olympia is happening early November, November 7th this year. Sheila and Freddie, yeah. Great show, great venue. Last year was my first trip to Texas Pro. I was very, very impressed. Blessing won, right? Didn't Blessing win that? No, Blessing didn't win that. Andrew Jack won it. I got my Nigerians all mixed up. That was Andrew Jack. He had won that, and then he went on to win Arnold UK a couple weeks after that. But yeah, that was Andrew's. Was that his pro debut? Yeah. That was Andrew's pro debut, the Texas Pro last year. And I remember it was a good lineup, a really good lineup. I mean, Fitzwater looked really good. Who was second in Texas? Kupla was in it. It was a good show. And Kareth Bajo won the 212. Yeah. Jimmy L. Max working with Milos again. You think he could win the Masters? Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have a lot of real solid competition from guys who are still actively competing. Kamalo Garney's going to give him a very hard time, give Max a very hard time. Phil Clayhar is no joke. I haven't seen the full list out yet. But yeah, I mean, Max has a good chance for sure. I noticed his condition from the back wasn't that great this time. It wasn't up to his usual standard. For the front, he still looked pretty good. And he managed top sixth place. It's not horrible, but Max shouldn't be taking 6th to the New York Pro with that lineup that didn't have any big names. He should have been no lower than like 3rd. But I think Masters Olympia, he's got a real good chance. And I didn't know he was working with Milos again. That's a good thing because I think him and Milos made a really good team. I thought he looked his best working with Milos. It was 2020 Arnold Classic, I think, when he got 7th. But I think that's the best Max I've ever seen. He was just peeled inside out and he was full. Yeah. Max Muscle just put up a fun comparison of Tonio and Dexter. Yeah, that's cool because I'll check that out. There's a lot of similarities between them. They're not clones. And I try not to compare, new or current competitors to past ones too much because it's not fair. They're all individuals. They're their own person. So many guys have been compared to Flex Wheeler unjustly. So not all of them really warranted that comparison. Truth one, if size was the prize, Big Lenny Persons from the Del Rey Misfits. Yeah, the Jason Genova squad. Big Lenny would be Mr. Olympia. He competed at 300 pounds, shredded his last show at the Ruby Classic in 2017. Well, it's funny. Lenny wasn't in that bad condition. He didn't have a ton of body fat, but he still had this gut. You're like Octomom, like there was like 8 babies in there. It was crazy. Big gut out to here. Huge. It was a rough look. Hide Yamagishi says along, yeah. Is Hide, I guess he's doing open because Hide hasn't done 212 in years. Hide at his best would be tough in the Masters too, and I know he is doing it along with Johnny Jackson. Does Max have a chance to win the Toronto Pro, says Raymond Jones? I would never say somebody has no chance, but Ian Valliere coming in, Ian doesn't mess around. He's not going to be off. He's going to be looking fantastic. I think Hassan Mustafa's in the show. He's going to be looking good. It's going to be very, very tough for Max Charles to get past just those two. And if Tonio jumps in again and Stu, they just beat Max, so it would be very, very difficult for Max to win Toronto Pro. I'm not going to say impossible. I try to never say that because that's not cool to say. Oh, this person can't win. That's negativity. Let's be a little more. Let's be nicer, more kind. Muscle Machine looking good, Ron. Thank you. It's my Gasp tank top. Yeah. The shoulder is killing me though. Oh my god, right here. If I push down here, like right now, I can't even lift up my arm. Like taking off a shirt is like agony. It's very hard to take off a shirt. This arm does not want to go up. I need a full replacement, but I don't want to get a full replacement. Jimmy L. I think Tonio has a lot of similarities to Silvio Samuel as well. Yeah, Silvio, pretty underrated guy. He was around for a few years. Did very well. He was another one of Milos had coached at one point. He was one of the guys that used to come out. So some of you remember Milos had a gym out in Fullerton, California called Coliseum with a K. And long before Oxygen Gym in Kuwait started having athletes come and stay there for long periods to train, Milos used to have guys. There was like a Marriott Residence Inn across the street. He would have a lot of guys, especially guys from outside the U.S., would come stay there for weeks at a time, sometimes months, and he would train them every day with the supersets and all that. And he was at the time innovating the whole concept of intra-workout nutrition, feeding them all this creatine and glutamine and Vitargo probably at the time and BCAAs. I don't think EAAs were used back then. And, he was also experimenting with the insulin protocols on them. Tons of them. Hide was out there, Dennis Wolf, Dennis James, a lot of guys, and I think Melvin Anthony, a bunch of people, a bunch of athletes, and they all made, the late Luke Wood, they all made crazy improvements. They all put on a lot of size when they went out there and trained with Milos. So yeah, I don't know if you guys knew that. So that whole muscle camp or boot camp style thing, it was around before, and Milos was the one who sort of innovated that. Doesn't get a lot of credit for that. Looking good, right? 20 has a lot of similarities. That was it. That was the last comment. Oh boy, you guys, you got to give me something to work with here. Yeah. Who else we want to talk about in that show? I want to give some credit to some people in the show. 212, Carrot Baggio looked phenomenal, but this other guy looked really good too. This Diego Guerra Montoya from Colombia. I'm sure I probably saw him before, but I never noticed him until this show. Like I said, when there's a bunch of big names in the show, there are other people who are really good, but maybe they're just a little bit below that level, and they sort of, it's not that they get overlooked, it's just there are better people in the show, so they don't get much attention. They don't get a lot of love. Definitely Diego made an impression on me. Third place, Jason Hebert. I thought it was Hebert because I graduated with a kid who sat in front of me or in back of me in homeroom was Mark Hebert, Hebert, and we said Hebert. We didn't say Hebert. He looked really good too. He was very much improved. The only Jose Marte looked really good. He was from we're talking about 212 now, Florida. I'm assuming he's Cuban or something. My wife's Cuban. Fifth place, he could have won the show had he been shredded. This is Milos's guy, I think. He calls himself 212 Mass or the 212 Muscle or something. Sung Yop Jang was fifth place from Korea. He had been second place last year. Just massive, thick, crazy quads on this guy. Crazy thick. Could use a little more back, like a lot of the Koreans. I know this isn't being nationalistic or racist, but I've noticed a lot of these Koreans have the most insanely developed lower bodies. An upper body will be good from the front, but a lot of times I don't see the back development. I don't know why. It's cause they say shows are won from the back. It's because usually that's like the one thing a lot of guys are missing is the back. You'll see all these guys with these massive shoulders, chests, arms, quads, hams. You don't see a lot of great hams, but you don't see a lot of great backs. Let's see. Silvio Samuel, looking good. Real excited to see Joe Seaman again in Toronto. Yes, Joe Seaman could have been third. I thought you could have flipped a coin between him and Josef Kveton. I don't know how you say his name. Kveton from Czech Republic. He looked great. They both looked phenomenal. But Seaman was huge, ripped, just a big dude with condition. Joe pulled it out. He looked way better than I remember him. The Mass. Dane says the Mass. Yeah, he's the Mass 212 on Instagram. Sung Yeop, 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 Jang. Yeah. Yeah, someone said, someone criticized the MC, saying she murdered some people's names, but Shannon Day. There are a lot. Some of these names, unless you're from that country, or you speak that language, or you've seen that name before, it's rough. And I think Giles said, well, you go ask them. And I guess if you had time, you could go back and ask, excuse me, how do you say this? But if there's like 300 people in a show, you're really going to be able to go back and find them all? That'd be a task. Muscle Machine says, hey, Ron, you're very experienced. Would you recommend splitting oral steroid dosage in a day or take the full dose like before working out because that's the optimal time? Thanks. Yeah, I've talked about this with Dr. T, George Chiliados, who I always defer to on these things. And yeah, you split up. You always want to split up an oral dose. So if you're taking, let's say you're taking 60 milligrams of Anavar a day, and they come in 20 milligram tabs. I might be speaking from recent experience on this. Let's say you're doing that. I would do like, so if I go to the gym at like 8:30 or 9, I would take one, put it under my tongue. With orals, you want to let them dissolve under your tongue so that rather than swallow them. If you can do that, it sort of bypasses one of the pathways, so you don't do as much liver damage, kidney and liver damage. So I would do one then. I would do one later in the afternoon. Then I would do one at night. I would split, try to divide them up evenly throughout the day for a more steady dose rather than getting it all at once. You just get more out of it that way. Stepan Artun, do you think the elimination of the point system is going to impact anything? Has it so far? I don't know. How would it really? What does it really change? The only thing it changes, you say, well, now guys aren't going to do as many shows, but if they don't win, they're still going to want to do another show to hopefully win. I think it might discourage some guys who I think in their heart of hearts know that they're not they're not going to be winning contests. They're going to be getting like third, fourth, fifth. They're not at the level where they're going to be winning or they can't count on winning. But if they can rack up, 5 or 6 third or fourth place spots, then they get enough points to go to the Olympia. But so maybe those guys who know that they're probably not going to win a show, they're really not. They're at that level where somebody's probably going to come along and beat them if they're good. So maybe those guys will be discouraged and won't compete. But I guess we'll find out. We'll find out at the end of the year how it all worked out. Did we get more people in the shows, less people in the shows? I don't think it changes much. Brian Nasser, what's up, Brian, says, it's nice seeing more competitors with cuts compared to the early 2000s. Maybe insulin use is lower these days. I don't think it's lower. I think it's higher. I think if anything, it's higher. There were quite a few people in open, a few in 212, even some in classic where it looked to me like they went for the full look, loaded up on a shit ton of carbs and insulin and did not show the proper crisp conditioning that we want to see. I think insulin use is higher now than ever before. If I'm being honest, I don't think it's going away because everybody wants to be big and full and popping, and insulin's going to help them do that. It's going to help transport all those carbs and really fill out those muscles with glycogen. But when it goes wrong, I don't know for sure if that's what happened to the Korean gentleman, Sung Yup. I have no idea why he wasn't in the best shape. He could have been a lot leaner. You see some of the pictures, you go, oh, he looks pretty good. But trust me, when I was there, when I was sitting next to Jose, as soon as he came out, I'm like, I blew it. If this guy had been in shape, he'd be pushing Kareth Baggio very hard for the win, even though he needs a little bit more back. I mean, he just had so much muscle. He's very good. He just didn't have the conditioning. Steve Amyot, I think you guys owe John from Seriousness, Silliness, and Apology. He's like a real good dude, and you guys were douchebags to him. I'm not going to address that. Because it was a lot of misunderstandings, and yeah, I have nothing against him. I hope he has nothing against me. He has issues with the company, whatever. But I'm grateful that he did the show, the Muscle Talk, MD Muscle Talk. Did a bunch of episodes of that, so I'm grateful that he took that on and did a great job with that. I wish him nothing but the best. But no, I don't personally feel I owe him an apology because I don't feel like I personally did anything wrong to him to warrant an apology. But I do wish him the very best and much success. Jimmy L, fantasy matchup, Krizo versus Armin Schultz. Whatever happened to Armin Schultz? I forgot all about him. I think Krizo's better, honestly. Armin, if I remember correctly, Armin didn't have the prettiest shape. I remember him being a big, impressive dude, giant arms, but I don't think the shape and structure were that pleasing. Whereas Krizo does have really nice shape, structure. Krizo is going to surprise people this year. I think he's going to do much, much better at the Olympia. I know people are saying, well, he'll just win the Prague show. The Prague show, which is the same sponsor as him, EVLS, is being held after the Olympia. Didn't he already say he's jumping into a show in France or something? I think he already announced it. I think he already said what show he was doing. So, Harmon Schultz. That's a blast from the past, Jimmy. Hadn't thought about that name in a long time. So many athletes come and go in our sport. Yeah. Spain? Okay, Spain. Yeah. Alicante. Last year, I think there were three pro shows in Alicante. Emilio Martinez usually puts them on and gets a great turnout. Truth One. By the way, what happened to Arash Rabar? I missed seeing him on stage. He was my favorite in Classic. Last pro show he did, he won in late 2019, Legion, I think. Yeah, I was there when he won that. It was very close between him and, who was it? It wasn't Breon. Who was it? I remember it was a very, very close show. Arash was very good. I mean, Arash, I remember the first year that Arnold Classic featured Classic Physique, it came down to Arash and Breon Ansley. Breon ended up winning the Olympia later that year, but it was like neck and they were just so close that the head judge, I don't think it was Steve because it was his show, head judge was working the hell out of those two. Oh, it was the Arnold. It was Steve Weinberger. So yeah. Yeah, I remember just a crazy judging with those two going back and forth. They were out, just those two, they were out there for like a solid 10 minutes, every pose over and over and over again. I don't know what happened with Arash, but always liked Arash. Cool dude to talk to. Very smart, businessman. I think he's into like real estate and stuff. Dane says he's doing the M Pro, I think. Is that what the Spain show's called? Deng Tui, I don't mind the point system. Imagine prepping for comp, then Nick Walker jumps in and wins. Then you prep again and Lunsford jumps in and wins. Your seconds to those two should mean something. Yeah, but you know what? You could look at it that way. Another way to look at it is the Mr. Olympia is supposed to be the elite. I don't think there should be 32 guys? That's not very elite. If you have 32 people, that's not the best of the best of the best. There's some people that were on that stage that were damn good, but were they really realistically going to be fighting? I think in the Olympia, everybody up there should have Olympia potential. And there were guys up there who, no disrespect, didn't have like Mr. Olympia potential. They're damn good bodybuilders. They made it to Olympia. They rightfully earned their way onto that stage. But if you get a bunch of second and third places, you didn't win anything. It's like giving pro cards to people who take second place in the division. I don't really agree with that either. It's like you couldn't even win your class at the USA or Nationals or whatever, but you're a pro. You get second place, you're a pro. It happens in various divisions, just the bodybuilding division. They do that in like figure, classic, but I don't agree with second place pro cards, and I don't think we don't need 30 plus guys in the Olympia. I think 25 is like the max amount of guys you should have at the Olympia. And if somebody wins a bunch of shows and takes away qualifications from someone else, you weren't good enough to beat them anyway. So why should you deserve? Nobody deserves to be in the Olympia. Just because you're a fan of them and you like them and they're good guys and they have worked very hard, I get that. But that doesn't mean they deserve to be. Nobody deserves to be on the Olympia stage unless they earn their way there. And a win, I think it's a little more elite now if you have to win a show to get to the Olympia. It's going to stop a lot of these guys who, like I said, rack up a ton of third and fourth places. They're very good, but are they good enough to really push for an Olympia title? Fantasy matchup, Andrew from Jimmy L. Andrew Jack versus Tony Freeman. I'd give it to Andrew Jack. No diss to Tony. Andrew's got a hell of a physique. Dan, we got our tickets to the Olympian a few days ago. Wow. If Tonio takes 2 shows and Hunter or Andrew takes 2 shows, we're looking at 15 to 17 max. That's perfect. Looking forward to being done before midnight. Yeah. Any of you guys who either were at the Olympia in December or who watched it at home on the pay-per-view, it was brutally long. It was so long. I mean, you know, I felt bad. I knew these guys were backstage waiting to go on. I'm like, oh my God, it's like 11:30. They haven't even gone on yet. My God, these poor guys. And they're back there. It's like, it was super crowded. Some of them didn't have enough food because they didn't expect to be back there for like 7 hours. So they flattened out. It was a bad scene all around. So yeah, 15, 17 guys, 20 max. I'm good with that, man. We don't need 30 guys in Olympia. We don't need 60 guys in classic, 60 women in bikini and figure. No, that's not very elite. It's going to be harder to control it with the other divisions because there's a bikini show every week. Sometimes, some weekends, there's like 3 bikini shows because they just tack those on. Men's Physique, they tack those on to a lot of amateur shows where it's not really a pro show. It'll be like, I don't know, the Southern Classic or something featuring, and then it'll have like, pro bikini or pro men's physique. So you're still gonna have a ton of them. Deng Tui, I agree there should be a cutoff for the O20, I reckon. Yeah, 20 is good. Like the Arnold Classic is invitation only, and they always cap it off at, I don't think they've ever had more than 15, but I want to say it's usually like 12. 15 max. And that's a good, healthy amount. I mean, who wants to sit through more than that? It's a lot of people. Truth one, John Levy addressed this MD situation, praise you on as being a gentleman. Yeah, I try to treat people the way I like to be treated. That's all I got to say. I have no issues. I'm grateful he did the show for us, and I wish him nothing but the best. Like he's got his own channel. He's always had serious and so he can do whatever he wants on his channel now and talk about whatever he wants to talk about. And God bless him and best of luck to him. Brian Nasser, I listened to that podcast as well. All good opinions of you. Yeah, I mean, not everybody likes me. I get that. I'm not liked by everybody. A lot of people get mad because I post too many selfies on Instagram. I still have that vanity. A lot of other people get mad that I'm still like trying to be a bodybuilder. But you know what? I've been doing this I've been lifting since 1980. I realized the other day, I thought it was, I used to say I've been lifting regularly since fall of 83, which is when I started going to my friend's house after school every day. But I had a weight bench that I got Christmas 1982. And I was training at home before that. So I've already been training over 40 years now. Jeez, 40 years. Yeah. Truth one, yeah, I've never heard anyone say a bad thing about you, Ron. Oh, I have. Post all the selfies you want, man. You look fantastic. Thanks. Yeah, I'm a very flawed person, very flawed physique, and I have my issues. I have insecurities. I vacillate between like ego and insecurity, and I wouldn't say ego too much, but like I said, I try to treat people well. I try to do the right thing. I try to be kind. My younger years, I had a lot of. I thought I was a lot smarter back in the day. I thought I was a big know-it-all back in the day. I remember with training especially, I used to just out of hand dismiss anything that I didn't think made sense, or if I read something. Good example. I'm just going to give one example. The late Don Ross, for those of you who know, he was actually MD online, MD, not online. There was no online back then. There was no internet. He was the senior writer for MD or editor in chief. I think he was the editor, something, back in the early 90s when I first met him. And I was working for the American Muscle Show on ESPN. He did some work for us on the show. Very cool guy. I got to know him and his wife, Rita, a little bit. And I saw Don one time, Don Ross. He was a pro wrestler. He was just a really cool guy. What a personality Don had. Funny, smart. Anyway, he was World Gym Venice had an outdoor workout deck. They had some benches and they had a bunch of hammer strength stuff that they would put tarps over when it rained. But anyway, it was outdoors. You could smell the ocean. It was just a block away. Sunshine. He was on the hammer strength behind neck press, the military press looking one. He was just doing these little reps. And I go, what are you doing, Don? He's like, these are partial reps. It's good to train sometimes in the strongest part of the range of motion. I was like, and I was thinking in my head, what a dummy. The guy won not the IFBB, or he won many bodybuilding shows. He had a physique at that point that I had never come close to. And here I was saying, oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Later, as I got older, I realized, man, you don't know it all. The more, anyone who thinks they know it all is really a fool, is what I realized. Because you never know everything. We're always our toughest critic. I think you would turn pro and classic division around back in your prime. Yeah, you know what? If classic had been around back then, I never would have pushed so hard trying to get bigger, and I never got that big anyway. The only things that kept growing on me were like my chest, my quads. My midsection ended up getting thicker. I ruined. If anyone's on my Facebook page is public, it's not private. I have old school pictures, and when I was competing as a natural competitor, which I did from 89 to 95. I did only natural shows. I was lifetime drug free. I had a tiny little waist, great V-taper. I had great shape, and I messed it all up, man. I blew out my midsection, And I was very proportionate. I was, my arms didn't look that bad. They weren't great, but because everything else, as I got bigger, the arms didn't get a lot bigger. The legs got way bigger, the chest got bigger, the shoulders got bigger, and it made my arms look worse. No matter what I did for my arms, they never caught up. So if I hadn't chased size the way I did, I think my physique overall would have been better. Certainly the shape and structure and flow, everything would have looked prettier. So who knows? But water under the bridge. Pro card, a pro card and $5 would have got me a cup of coffee. I miss Don the Ripper. I miss Don a lot too, Brian. There's so many people I miss. So many cool people I knew over the years that have passed away. I try not to think about it too much. Dane, speaking of not knowing everything, Samson's traveling all over and pick up knowledge on how to train and feel lower lats. The Arnold champ is humble and always looking to improve. Yeah, he was at the New York Pro, and he's in Philadelphia now doing appearances. He's coming back to New York, I think June 3rd, to pose at the Bev Francis Atlantic States, the Steve Weinberger show. So he's in the U.S. for a while. Great video of him on Cuba Sealand's channel. What do you think caused the blowout? Stepan Artuni. So my waist, it wasn't GH and insulin. I didn't touch GH until a couple of years ago for the first time, honestly, because I was too cheap. Wouldn't pay for it. Nobody would give it to me for free. It wasn't insulin. I wasn't using insulin. It was force feeding. I used to eat so much, just trying to pack on size, and I was trying to do something my body just wasn't going to do. I wasn't going to. All that food, it was just stretching out my gut and my colon. It wasn't turning into muscle because I used to blow up to off season. I would get to like between usually 235 and 245. That's where I would be from like November to like March every year. I would spend a few good winter months just eating like a pig, bunch of shit food. I would eat good food, but then I would also eat like bowls of cereal on top of that. A lot of crap. It was way too much, and I would get fat. My face is all fat, and I think I blew out my gut. I can't blame like the squats, and there's plenty of guys that did many squats and never had a huge waist. I just think it was the overeating, honestly. Overeating in a misguided attempt to try to get big. I thought that's what I had to do. It didn't work out that way. I mean, like I said, certain parts of me grew and grew, but other parts, Truth one, they don't want big arms in classic anyways. I mean, you could say that because Bumstead doesn't have huge arms, but in certain shots, his arms look pretty damn good. His arms and his side chest look pretty damn good to me. In the front double bicep, yeah, the biceps don't look great. He doesn't have great biceps. Triceps are a lot better than his biceps. Ramon Dino has fantastic arms. Who else? Breon Ansley, the two-time champ, has great arms. Ruffin's arms, not so great. Urs arms, yeah, not so great. Yeah, I mean, in classic, I hear what you're saying. You don't have to have like 21-inch arms to be a great classic physique competitor. It's all about the flow and the shape and a pretty shape. And when I was smaller, I did have much better shape, but it was never like beautiful, like wow. Nobody ever said, oh my God, is that a Greek god? Is that a sculpture I'm looking at? Or is that a human being? Yeah. Brian asks, how many books and online articles read the ghostwriter? I never wrote any books. You know what? That was where I drew the line. People had asked me to write their books for them. And I never wanted to do that. I said, if I'm going to write a book, my name's going on it. It's not going to be by Flex Wheeler or by Chris Cormier or by Nasser. Yeah, I mean, Flex had asked me, because we had a good relationship working together on the American Muscle Show. He had asked me to write the Flexibility, his book. And I was like, nah. As much as I wanted to, I liked Flex a lot. We're real cool with each other. And I knew a lot of his story, but I'm like, if I'm going to write a book, no. But ghostwriting, if you want to call it ghostwriter. So, I really got my start in MD doing mostly columns, Q&A columns. At one time, MD used to have like 20, 25 athletes under contract, and they all had either a one-page or a two-page column in the magazine. So, Branch, Johnny, Jay, we had so many different, Dennis Wolf, Dorian. We had so many guys under contract over the years at different times. So I would do their columns for them. And really what that meant was I would come up with questions usually. I would call them up on the phone and ask them the questions and take notes on their answers, and I would write it up. So it would say, Only the Strong Survive by Johnny Jackson. Here, how do I get my bench press up? And here's the answer. And I wrote it, but it wasn't my answer. It was still Johnny's answer. So I was the ghost writer, but I was almost more like a transcriber. I did a lot of times would, structure things so they made more sense, change the wording a little bit to make it a little more easily understandable. Sometimes I'd interject my own thoughts, things I knew into there, just as a little bonus. Usually people wouldn't get upset about that if it was helpful to the readers. But how many? I mean, I remember I was an independent contractor for MD from 2001, 2002, 2001, until I got this job, online editor, in 2017. So in that time, I used to invoice them for every article and every column that I did. And I think I got up to, it was like number 3,500 or something. So over 3,500 articles and columns before I took the job full time, and I just get a salary. I don't charge them by article or by column anymore. And I did so many for Muscle Mag, Iron Man, Testosterone, Planet Fitness, Planet Muscle, Planet Fitness, Planet Muscle. I used to write for everybody. I used to write for so many different magazines. Yeah. So when I say like I've done over 5,000 articles and columns, it's probably more between like 5 and 8, if I had to really guess, but I don't know the real number. Truth one, thoughts on the elite pre-contest approach of keeping clean food high and doing lots of cardio to put you in a deficit. Pre-contest approach, keeping clean food high. Yeah, that's not uncommon. A lot of people, they prefer to eat more and do more cardio rather than eat less and do less cardio, because they feel better physically if they're just eating more food rather than keeping the calories real low. It's still that calories in versus calories out. So you either have to eat more food and do more cardio, or eat less food and you can do less cardio, because you're still trying to be in a deficit. And there's different ways to achieve that. So that worked. It worked well for him, obviously. Muscle Machine, hey Ron, what did you think of Nasser's physique, and also what's the best life lesson you've learned from your bodybuilding journey? Nasser had a phenomenal physique. He was a mass monster with really good structure and shape. Some of the best shoulders, legs, granite condition. His back shots weren't awesome. I think that's why he never was able to beat Dorian and become Mr. Olympia. But he was definitely one of the very best for many, many years. Best life lesson I've learned, I guess, be humble, be open to learning new things, treat others the way you want to be treated. It's just really, it's always try to be learning. Never think you know everything, because the day you think you know it all, you're done. You don't know everything. The day you think you've maxed out on this is the best I can be at that, you can always be better. You can always be better. I need to remember that too. Philip Yarabi, hi Ron. What's the difference between UGL labs and pharma grade tests? I know you used UGL for years and then went to pharma grade. Yeah. What do you feel? More energy, better libido? What about mood? To be honest with you, I don't notice a difference. I don't think with the underground labs, I don't think test is faked. I don't think it's usually that underdosed, because it's cheap. Test is like the cheapest raw powder you can get. So you're probably getting 200 milligrams per mil, if that's what it says on the bottle. You're probably getting that in an underground. It might have impurities in it. It might have like heavy metals that you don't want to be injecting your body. It's not as legit. It's not as safe, clean, sterile. You're not guaranteed any of that, because you don't know where it was made or how it was made. But I'll be very honest, I don't notice any difference in the way I look or the way I feel from switching to pharmaceutical grade tests versus underground. The underground stuff must have been pretty good, and I use many, many different brands. Mark, I don't know if you can answer, but how is muscle development still a thing? The magazine era is over. I doubt it's making much profit, any at all. It's still making a profit. We're still able to stay in business and print magazines. It's not as profitable as it was, but it's still profitable. It's enough to keep us going. And I'm glad that we still have the print magazine. See some of the ones behind me over there. There's something, maybe it's because I'm older and I grew up with the magazines and they were very special to me. They had a different meaning to me. It was like I used to go to the newsstand every month. I knew exactly what day the new issues came out. I would go and I would get the new MD, the new Flex, the new Muscle and Fitness, the new Muscle Mag. And it was so exciting to me to open it up and see the articles and the pictures and contest reports and training articles. I mean, that's all we had. We didn't have any internet. We didn't see these guys on YouTube channels or Instagram. The only way we saw these athletes that we looked up to and the sport that we followed was in the magazines. So I'm glad we still have a magazine. And a lot of these athletes, they still get very excited to be on the cover. Even someone like a Bumstead, they'll post it. I mean, Chris Bumstead doesn't need a magazine. He's got like 13 million Instagram followers. He's got a few million YouTube subscribers. He doesn't need to be on the cover of a magazine. What does that do for him? But it was still a really cool thing for him. He posted it on his socials, and he was proud of it. He was happy about it. Even Hani Rambod just posted on his stories that he had, I think 3 months in a row, he had his champions. It was, the order might be wrong. It was Hottie, Derek, and Bumstead were three months in a row, and they were all his Olympia champ. Or Derek's not Olympia champ yet. They were all his athletes. So he was proud of that. So yeah, it's we're still a thing. We're still in business. We're still able to stay afloat. Yeah, it's not as profitable. It's not like it was back when the magazine was like that, but we're still going. We're still keeping it going. Good afternoon, Ron, says Edward Kosick. Always good to see you and always your perspective. Thank you, Edward. Appreciate that. Brian did the same thing while I was in the Army, but waiting each Wednesday for the lady to open the boxes. Yeah, at the PX. I was able to go to the PX when I was in junior ROT, Marine Corps Junior ROTC. Every year they would take us, I only was in it 2 years. We went to Camp Lejeune one year for a week and Quantico base in Virginia. And they took us to the PX. You could buy everything all discounted, t-shirts and knives, and bought a K-bar knife. And I love the PX, you know, the on-base stores for the soldiers. Philip Darabi, you're allowed to specify some reputable UGL labs. Problem is here in Romania, there's a lot of fake gear. I don't follow the underground scene. I'm not trying to, I'm not scared to answer the question. I don't know the answer. I don't know. You know, the best advice I have for you, I mean, I don't know if there are forums where they talk about this stuff or not, but if you know somebody and they have a great physique, find out what, you know, somebody in your area. If you're a friend of theirs, you can befriend them, find out where they get their gear, and that's probably whatever they're using is probably good stuff if it's working that well for them. Philip again, only farm grade here is Nabito, which is horrible. Well, Nabito sucks because it takes forever to start working. It's a very, very long acting testosterone, undeconate, that you're only supposed to inject every 3 to 4 months. My God, can you imagine the highs and lows on that? Jack T, I think no issues with Tonio winning, but Tonio will lose in shows where people are bigger, and so Stu winning would be more productive. It's all about who's there that day. You know, any show, it's all about who shows up that day to compete against you. And, you know, Tonio was the best that day. I don't see a different outcome. If they both look pretty similar, unless Tonio slips and his condition goes somehow, he spills over. I don't see Stu beating him, but you know what? Stranger things have happened. It could very well happen. It's going to be some different judges. So, you know, Stu looked damn good. I take nothing away from that kid. He's a kid. He's 26. He's got a hell of a physique. He's making a hell of an impression on us right away. So we'll see what happens. Jack, I like Tonio and Stu both. Yeah, I think they're both younger guys. Stu's younger, but they're both new, fresh talent. It's always exciting to see new talent. You know, nothing against the guys that have been around for a long, long time, but just to use Max Charles as an example, I've seen Max compete probably 30 times, and he looks great. But man, I've seen him so many times. It's like there's Max again. But then you see somebody like a Stu, I've seen him briefly. It's just, you know, it's the new flavor. It's a new exciting thing, like a new movie or a new song. You're like, wow, what's that? Philip again, how much money do you spend on gear and supplements monthly? Zero. Zero. Yeah, I'm with Frontline Alternative. They cover my test and DECA and my Arimidex, so that's my cycle. Supplements, I'm with Muscle Tech now. I work for them. I do some writing for them. So I get a little check every month, and I get an allotment of supplements. So I shouldn't say that. I do buy some supplements, like some health supplements that they don't make, like stuff like DHEA, you know, apple cider vinegar, just random stuff like that. So okay, so maybe on supplements, like vitamins and supplements, maybe like $100 a month, 150. It's not much. And the gear, I don't spend a dime on that. Thank you. Yeah. So anyways, 517. I'm showing my head. So on Mother's Day, I split my head open, right? Helping my brother move this giant dresser. It fell backwards. If you saw my Instagram, you saw the picture. Ron Harris Muscle. I put it up and the post got reported because it was graphic, but it's still up. So let's see if I can show you. Can you see that? I have 6 staples in my head. I'll go back to the ER tomorrow night and get those out. So yeah, my scalp was sliced open, like it's about that much, super deep bled. It bled a lot. I've never lost that much blood in my life at once. But it was just a flesh wound. I didn't get a concussion. Didn't go unconscious. Very, very lucky. Very lucky. Almost done here. Muscle Machine. Ron, what do you think of a bulking cycle of 70 mg Androl and 10 mg D-ball? Terrible, terrible, terrible. It's all oral, so I don't like that cycle at all. You're going to beat the crap out of your liver. You could use like one oral, and then I would just do a bunch of tests. So you're thinking about 75 milligrams of Androl a day and 10 milligram D-ball. What's the point of the 10 milligrams of D-ball? I mean, they're very similar. I would just do one or the other. But honestly, I would do, a very, very basic bulking cycle would be like, 500 milligrams. These amounts are just for entertainment purposes. Like 500 milligrams a test, 400 milligrams of Deca, 50 milligrams of D-ball a day or Anadrol. If you can't grow on that, with a lot of good food, good hard training, a lot of rest, if you can't grow on that, man, you need to find another activity for yourself. Philip, again, congrats on everything you do for people and for the bodybuilding community. Really appreciate the content. Thank you. All right, guys, I'm going to close it off because I haven't had a shower yet all day. I worked out hours and hours ago. Probably smell like a billy goat. I appreciate you guys watching so much. Hope I answered some questions for you. We'll do this again sometime soon. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, share the video, and what's that? The notification bell. Turn the notification bell on your YouTube and on your telephone in the settings. Then you'll know when we have great content. Tomorrow morning we have a great episode of MD Global Muscle with Giles. I think you got Kareth Bajo, you got Brent Swanson, you got a few more people from New York Pro. He's got some great guests that he got for this episode. So that's tomorrow morning at 9:15 a.m. Eastern. Check out MD Global Muscle. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Appreciate it. We'll see you soon.